Part 77. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 762. At the northern end of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula, stands the iron wall of the heretic cult. The iron wall is made up of tall iron rods as pillars, and there are iron plates between the iron rods to isolate the Eagle Beak Peninsula from the outside. No one in the Eagle's Mouth Peninsula could escape alive, and the Constitutional Army could not enter the Eagle's Mouth Peninsula. Joel and Rudolph traveled in an airship from west to east, patrolling the imprisoned iron wall. There is the White Devil Temple in Malin City on the west side. Even in the daytime, you can see the bright light above the White Devil Temple. The height of the airship exceeds 10,000 meters, so it is relatively safe here. Holding a telescope, you can vaguely see the situation on the ground. Malong City has been greatly changed. The city has become magnificent. Different from the greenery and dirt floors of ordinary cities, the places in the city that can be paved with stone slabs are all paved with bright stone slabs. Without greening, Malong City has formed a strong heat island effect. The temperature in the city center is much higher than that in the suburbs. As a result, the entire city seems to be shrouded in steaming fog, with streams of hot air rushing upward. Those slates reflect light, and even the roofs are made of light-colored tiles. Some roofs are even covered with mirror tiles, making Malong City like a pearl. The most dazzling thing is the Great Pyramid outside the city and the spacious square in front of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid glows with light, and Cardinal Barzan rules over this bright and dazzling city. A staff officer reported from the side. I got a lot of information from the Black Gold Institute. There are now 3 White Devil temples on the Eagle Beak Peninsula. The White Devil Pope landed a week ago. He and the 2 White Devil Cardinal priests sit in charge of these 3 temples. The temple where the Pope is located has no intention of building the Great Pyramid of Holy Light. We guess that the Eagle Beak Peninsula is too small to build the Great Pyramid of Holy Light for the White Devil Church. Among other evil cult churches, the Church of Annihilation has established 6 temples in seaside cities, among which the megalithic pillar array is being built in Belfour City. The Church of Annihilation needs a large swath of beach land and water system. The city of Belfour is very satisfied with the Church of Annihilation. It will become the place where the evil god Annihilation belongs to the gods in the northern continent and become the temple of the evil god Annihilation. The temple is the core temple that can accommodate the evil god's body and is very dangerous. Each of the remaining churches has 3-4 temples, and there is no intention to build temples. Commander-in-Chief Joel added. Except for the Church of Annihilation, all other churches have the motivation to continue heading north. Of course, when the evil cult launches another attack, the Church of Annihilation will not be left behind. They still need more temples and they need to conquer more rivers. Rudolph was silent as he listened to this news. Both Joel and Rodolfo knew that the key question now was how many giant airburst bombs West Elba could produce. Even in the Apostle world, wars are all about logistics. This is especially true for alchemists. Given unlimited resources to alchemists, alchemists can turn all wars into artillery fire. Joel gave Rudolph the answer. Mr. Advisor, 1 giant airburst bomb was removed from the battlefield on the Eastern Front, and 8 giant airburst bombs were transported from the capital city of Legera. We have a total of 9 bombs in our hands. This number is enough to defeat the knights, but it is far from enough to defeat the evil cult. There is only 1 level 8 knight in East Elba, but there are 7 level 9 popes in the southern continent, and more than a dozen level 8 cardinal priests. Not to mention those artifacts, the Constitutional Army has no chance of winning. The airship continued to fly east, and about 15 kilometers away from the White Demon Temple, there was a Temple of Trouble. The top of a high mountain was cut into flat ground, and the cult of evil god created a crater on the top of the mountain. Surrounding the crater, there are several mountaintop buildings, which are temples of poverty. After the Temple of Troubledness was established, the mountain changed from a fake volcano to a real volcano. The crater continuously spits out magma, which rolls under the influence of divine magic, providing steam for the entire temple and serving as the power for the operation of the temple. From the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain, there is an escalator. The power provided by steam drives the windlass and takes believers to the top of the mountain, allowing believers to feel the power of the God of Craftsmen. This temple is managed by Dowd, the level 8 trapped cardinal priest, and the trapped pope is not here. Around the Temple of Trouble, it feels like you have entered an alchemist's industrial area. There are chimneys everywhere and factories and workshops everywhere. These factories are preparing weapons for the evil cult's army, and there are even airships in the open spaces of some factories. After acquiring the Eagle Beak Peninsula, the Church of the God of Artisans has more information on alchemists, and they have almost all the alchemists they have. Admiral Joel, the alchemist's airship has always been the superior force. If the evil god cult has many airships, the war will be difficult to fight. After hearing the furnace's judgment, Joel nodded, but he didn't have any good ideas. There is a wetland 20 kilometers away from the Temple of Trouble. The center of the wetland is filled with mist. That is where the Temple of Pain is located. The believers of the Church of Pain are rummaging for food in the mud. They feed on special roots, and they are all skinny. The Pain believers are the followers of the evil god who live the most miserable lives, but they are also the believers with the strongest faith. They lived an ascetic life every day, torturing themselves to demonstrate their faith in their Redeemer. Only a small amount of food was needed to support their trek through the mud toward the temple. If they fail to become servants of God or priests, it can only be because they are not suffering enough and cannot grasp the true meaning of salvation. Going further east, you will enter the sea at the other end of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula. After a round of inspection, the airship returned to the front line base. Looking at the busy soldiers in the base, Rudolph's heart sank to the bottom. He turned his head and glanced at Joel, who understood the meaning of this look. That was despair, that was sadness. After entering the tent, Rudolph said, "Admiral Joel, we have the possibility of victory against East Elba. But against the evil god cult, the current strength of the constitutional army is far from enough." "I know, Mr. Advisor. I will try my best to get more support." At this moment, Rudolph suddenly had an idea. The 8th level star condensed dragon scale sent a signal, and Blanca had arrived in the Luberon region. "Admiral Joel, do you have anything for me to bring to Commander-in-Chief Stein? I just happened to be going to the Luberon region." Joel was shocked and his eyes were about to pop out. "Mr. Consultant, the evil cult may launch an attack at any time. You can't leave the Garin region at this time. Don't be nervous. I have just made a level 8 magic weapon that can instantly shuttle between two places. It won't affect you." "What?" Joel said in confusion. "Mr. Consultant, I have never seen a level 8 wizard before. I am very sorry that I have little experience. Is there such a magic weapon? Can you shuttle between two places instantly?" "Yes, there is. It is made of the relics of the level 8 arched dragon wizard. It is very precious." Joel sighed in his heart. The wizard is so powerful that he can break through the limitations of space. The furnace is really a spendthrift. It actually used the relics of the arched dragon wizard to make a magic weapon. Yvonne stayed at the front line of the Garin region with half of the star condensation dragon scale, and Rudolph disappeared instantly with several documents. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 763. When Rudolph appeared again, he was already in the command post on the front line of the Luberon region. The senior officials of the Constitutional Army were surrounding Blanca. They did not believe what Blanca said, but as students of the furnace consultant, they had to take Blanca's words seriously. The star-condensed dragon scale in Blanca's hand emitted white starlight. The starlight suddenly became turbid, and a figure walked out of the starlight. As soon as Rudolph appeared, he saw a circle of senior officers. There are quite a few people. Handing several documents to Stein, Rudolph said, "This is the document that Admiral Joel asked me to bring to you." The other officers saw the calm Commander-in-Chief Stein and sighed that the Commander-in-Chief was not surprised. Unlike them, they were all shocked. The wizard actually has such a method. Stein saw the content of the document and finally believed everything in front of him. This document was not wrong. Rudolph held a document alone. After the official business, Commander-in-Chief Stein, this is my personal matter. It's not completely personal, it's half public and half private. Stein did not look at Joel's report in detail, but looked at the document handed over by Furness alone. This document was written by a regiment commander named Hit, which detailed the improvement of their regiment's combat effectiveness in the past 6 months. "Mr. Advisor, this is not a good place to talk in detail. I'll go to the small conference room to talk." After arriving at the small conference room, Stein looked at the document of Commander Hit while listening to Furness's story. "Commander-in-Chief, I want to replicate the Blood Feud organization in the Garan region in the Luberon region. After the Eagle's Beak Peninsula was destroyed by the evil god, the people of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula who escaped spontaneously formed a Blood Feud organization. They did whatever it took to improve their strength and wanted to avenge their loved ones. They came to me and wanted to become wizard apprentices. I agreed to them, and in the process of helping them, I discovered one thing. During the awakening ceremony of wizard apprentices and in their daily use of witchcraft, my star power will be improved. I don't even know the principle. I am already a level 8 wizard, and I don't know how to be promoted to level 9. Strength improvement is a good thing for me and for Sealba. Therefore, I want to replicate the Blood Feud organization here, and I want to find some soldiers who have a deep hatred for werewolves, let them become wizards, and let them use witchcraft. Maybe there is an opportunity for me to be promoted to level 9. Stein put down the file, and he looked at the furnace consultant with envy in his eyes. The Crucible consultant had just been promoted in the battle with Carloman 16 a few months ago, and now he has encountered another opportunity for promotion. It is really amazing. I understand, Mr. Consultant, I will arrange someone. This is not difficult. There are people in the Luberon region who have a deep hatred for werewolves, Stein said. Mr. Consultant, I am more concerned about another thing. Can your level 8 magic weapon allow you to support 2 battlefields at the same time? Stein was a little excited. The strength of the Crucible consultant is unquestionable. He can profoundly change the battlefield. If the Crucible consultant can shuttle between the 2 places, then his absolute hit ability will play a huge role. In theory, it is like this. Hearing this, Stein's heart suddenly tightened. This sentence means that there is a problem in actual operation. Rudolph continued, in theory, I can fight 2 battles at the same time. However, my strength is exhausted to deal with 1 battlefield. Fighting on 2 fronts will only make me tired to deal with it, and I can't go all out in each place. I understand. Stein lowered his eyes. It seems that the goddess of luck will not favor Sealba so easily. But at least you can help the Constitutional Army to deploy the 8th level giant air blast bomb, which will be more efficient. These things are possible, just like delivering documents to Admiral Joel this time, Rudolph said. My student Blanca will represent me here. If you have any questions, you can contact me through Blanca. The 8th level magic weapon can contact me without delay. The Garan region is very dangerous, so I won't waste time. After that, the magic weapon in Blanca's hand emitted starlight, and Rudolph's figure disappeared in the starlight. After the teacher left, Blanca waited for the arrangement of the Constitutional Army. The Constitutional Army acted quickly, and she met the officers arranged by the Constitutional Army in the afternoon. An officer, led by the staff officer, found Blanca. Advisor Blanca, this is Brigadier General Luke, who will be responsible for contacting you. Luke saluted Blanca with eagerness on his face. "Counselor Blanca." "Hello." After the staff officer left, Luke spoke first. "Counselor Blanca, I used to be a brigade commander, responsible for guarding a high ground. My troops were wiped out, and now I am responsible for forming and training a brigade of new recruits. I heard from the staff officer that you can make new recruits become apostles." "Yes. But I don't want new recruits to become alchemists, but wizard apprentices." "It doesn't matter. Consultant Blanca, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it can prevent soldiers from dying in vain, I can accept it. The efficiency of the constitutional army is very high. In just 3 days, a brigade of new recruits, more than 6,000 people, was assigned to Luke's men. The scavenger wizards in the Garan region collected a lot of meteorites, added star power to the meteorites, and created a large number of starstones. These starstones were sent to the Luberon region by Rudolph using the stern space for the new recruits to awaken. In the headquarters of the Constitutional Army, Chief of Staff Naji put down a report uneasily. "Commander-in-Chief, tonight, more than 800 Taurus wizard apprentices appeared in the recruit brigade. This alarmed the people of the trial department. Minister Duan sent a lot of witch hunters. After a simple investigation, those witch hunters left again. The Crucible consultant is here too, isn't it?" "Yes, the Crucible consultant is here too." Naji remembered the appearance of the Crucible standing in the starlight, and he said, "This is exactly what I want to say." The Crucible consultant was bathed in the starlight, and during the collective awakening ceremony, some changes seemed to have taken place in him. "This feeling is very bad. I even saw the shadow of the evil god in him." Many wizard apprentices, the spectacular awakening ceremony, the unpaid efforts in the early stage, and the Crucible standing on the side enjoying the starlight, there is something wrong with this. Stein pushed away the file handed by the Chief of Staff, meaning that he would not read the files related to the Crucible. He said, "Level 9 apostles will undergo a qualitative change. Level 10 apostles are immortal, and level 9 apostles are unique. Each of the 12 level 9 zodiac wizards is unique. If the Crucible occupies the position of the Scorpio wizard, no Scorpio wizard will be born unless he dies. Each level 9 apostle will master a unique ability. This uniqueness is based on the fusion or exclusion of other similar abilities. I guess the Crucible is on the road to fusion, and he has touched the threshold of becoming a level 9 apostle. For this, we just need to wait and see, and don't disturb him." At this moment, another staff officer hurried in and reported, "Commander-in-Chief. Chief of Staff." The Crucible consultant just disappeared suddenly, and suddenly appeared again, saying that the evil god cult army has left the trapped iron wall. They began to attack the hinterland of the Garan region. Stein frowned deeply, coughed twice, and coughed up blood. He stood up and left the study. Chief of Staff Nagy watched Stein walk towards the laboratory, his heart full of anticipation. The level 9 alchemy experiment was about to be completed, probably by the middle of the month, or at the latest by the end of the month. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 764. Yvonne held half a dragon scale and looked at the high wall opposite nervously. The high wall composed of iron pillars blocked people's sight, and behind the high wall were various lights. That was the light of divine power, that was the light of the Pope himself, holding a divine weapon. Starlight shone on the dragon scale, and Rudolph walked out of the starlight. Commander-in-Chief Joel hurried to Rudolph's side. "Mr. Advisor, does the Commander-in-Chief know the situation here?" Rudolph nodded. "I have informed Commander-in-Chief Stein." The divine light behind the high wall made people fearful. The white light of the white demon, the black light of the dilemma, the green light of the hive, and the light of other evil gods illuminated the sky in the south. Joel turned around and signaled the staff officer to issue an order. The flag was waving, the sharp sound of the whistle resounded through the sky, and the airships pulled up the altitude. After discussing with the furnace advisor, the Constitutional Army changed the arms, mobilized all the airships that could be mobilized to the front line, abandoned the ground battlefield, and only kept the airship. The limit of believers is the limit of the power of faith. The temple once built on the highest peak of the northern continent, Vulture Mountain, determines that the power of faith can only reach more than 9,100 meters at most. Alchemists can break through this height with airships, which can fly to an altitude of 10,000 meters. 200 airships slowly took off and flew to the sky. Rudolph and other scavengers boarded the airship of Commander Hit. As the strength of the Blood Feud organization increased, Hit's position also rose all the way, and now he is the commander of the Constitutional Army. Among these airships, there are military airships, police airships mobilized from local police stations and trial offices, and even civilian airships donated by big businessmen. No matter what airship, it is fully loaded with ammunition. The height of the airship is getting higher and higher, farther and farther from the ground, and the trapped iron wall in the field of vision is getting smaller and smaller, and finally becomes a black line. At a certain moment, even at such a long distance, the sound of the trapped iron wall's mechanism can be heard. The trapped iron wall started from the middle, and the iron rods rolled back one by one. The iron wall was opened, and the evil god cult, which had been dormant in the southern continent for more than 2,000 years, was released. Like a ferocious beast out of a cage, the evil god cult had accumulated hatred for the major forces in the northern continent, and also accumulated greed for the population of the northern continent. Some priests even knelt on the ground and cried and prayed to the sky because they were too excited, and were trampled to death by the priests behind them. They are unreasonable lunatics, and patients whose brains have been corroded by faith. In the army of the White Demon Church, there are long poles. On the straight long poles, there are beads of light. The army of the Worm Nest Church is shrouded in a thick cloud of insects. All the priests released the evil insects at the same time, and they could not see the situation of their ground troops at all. Above the army of the Oblivion Church, there are large and small black hole vortices floating, making them look like they are wearing black umbrellas. The army of the Church of Pain looks the most ordinary. Where they walked, rotten meat fell on the ground. This is the most troublesome priest. No matter how big the blow is, it can't destroy their will. The ascetic church has the least army. This group of women in white gauze clothes are not the main force on the battlefield, but they can be used as military doctors to effectively cut off the priest's perception and instantly stop the pain. The fraudulent priest is not here. The fraudulent priest has been lurking in the northern continent. There may even be fraudulent priests around Joel. For the Constitutional Army, the most troublesome thing is the trapped church. The army of the trapped church has a large part of the airship fleet. It turns out that the trapped church has accumulated so many airships in the southern continent. More than 200 airships have flown out of the trapped wall, which makes the Constitutional Army scalp numb. In order to win the war with the evil god cult, more than half of Zilba's airships have been mobilized here. After several years of consumption, Zilba can only take out more than 300 airships in the Garan region, which is already the limit of Zilba. Seeing more than 200 airships, the officers of the Constitutional Army at all levels were shocked. At this moment, a majestic figure appeared. The immortal King Hercules, who was over 100 meters tall, appeared in the sky. He was wearing a full body of golden armor, a flame-spraying Vulcan shield, ancient artifacts, and the immortal King Hercules' mount, a bronze chariot pulled by 4 flying horses. The bronze chariot was emitting starlight, and its size was larger than the largest airship, making it the most eye-catching existence in the starry sky. Behind the immortal King Hercules were more than a dozen starlight chains. After flying hundreds of meters, the ends of the starlight chains disappeared into the void. These starlight chains were like wings, making the figure of the immortal King Hercules even larger. Those heavenly constellations that Rudolph had completed too densely provided Rudolph with a magnificent star power at this moment, allowing the immortal King Hercules' strength to break through the limit of level 8 and reach level 9. At this moment, a strong beam of light shot straight up. The distance was so far, and Rudolph had a level 8 danger intuition, so the Vulcan shield flew out and blocked the flagship of the Constitutional Army, Joel's airship. The beam collided with the Vulcan shield, and the white divine light seemed to be a solid, splashing around like molten iron. This beam scared everyone on the flagship, and Joel realized that the Pope of the White Demon Church could actually attack at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Fortunately, there was the Furnace Advisor, and fortunately the Furnace Advisor stood on the side of the Constitutional Army. Fire! Attack! All the airships began to drop bombs, and the officers kept shouting parameters such as speed and wind speed, commanding the airships to adjust their positions. The shells fell like rain. Even if they were blown up by the priests in the air, the broken iron pieces were enough to kill the priests. Looking at the dense shells, the White Demon Pope put down his scepter on the divine chariot. His robes glowed white, and his facial features were shrouded in light. Looking at the fairy King Hercules in the sky, the White Demon Pope did not move. Has the blasphemer grown to this extent? Not only did the White Demon Pope think so, but the other 5 popes also felt it was difficult at the first time. Hiding at an altitude of 10,000 meters, with a strength of more than level 8, the blasphemer furnace is not only cunning, but also powerful. The Annihilation Priest created many black hole vortexes in the air. The bombing of the Constitution Army was too dense, and there were still many artillery fires that escaped the net. Iron rain fell from the sky, and shells, shrapnel, bullets, and countless alchemist weapons fell in the army of the evil god. Not only that, the vanguard troops in front encountered new troubles. The Constitutional Army actually laid a minefield in front of them, and the mines blew off the priests' legs. There were explosions everywhere, both near and far. The White Demon Pope's eyes fell on the airship of the Church of the Trapped, where the Pope sat on the flagship. The immortal King Hercules suddenly lowered his head and looked into a pair of red eyes sunken in the eye sockets. The Pope of the Church of the God of Craftsmen actually took an airship and flew 100 meters high. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 765. Pope Kundan sat on a high back chair at the bow, looking at Hercules, the celestial king, in the sky. In the history of the Church, there has not been a wizard of the Arch-Cepheus throne for thousands of years. I now believe in the fraudulent priest's claims that the forge is omniscient. Otherwise, it cannot be explained why the forge has such a rare wizard secret formula. Pope Kundan stood up with his scepter. The airship reached an altitude of more than 8,000 meters and would soon face the airship of the Constitutional Army. The Pope raised the scepter, and the gears inside the scepter made a clacking sound. Hercules, the celestial king, also noticed Pope Kundan, and the bronze chariot swooped down and rushed towards Pope Kundan. The Pope pointed at Hercules with his scepter, and a gear suddenly appeared in the middle of the scepter. The gear rotated and peeled off the tube wall of the front half of the scepter. Inside the tube wall was a short black stick, which kept rotating under the action of the gear. The black short stick suddenly shot out and shot at the fairy King Hercules. The short stick quickly split in the air, 1 became 2, 2 became 4, and 4 became 8. Soon, the iron sticks in the sky were radially shot at the fairy King Hercules. The 4 Pegasus pulling the bronze chariot were pierced by the trapped short sticks, and the star power that constituted the Pegasus collapsed. The vertical shield of the bronze chariot was also pierced by the short stick, and only the last golden full-body armor resisted the impact of the trapped short stick. All the trapped short sticks solidified in the air instantly after reaching the fairy King Hercules. Black chains were fired from the short sticks and connected to another short stick. Thousands of short sticks and thousands of chains bound the fairy King Hercules in the middle, unable to move. The only resistance made by the fairy King Hercules was to shoot a sky arrow at the trapped Pope before being bound. The sky arrow shot by the sun's silver bow broke through the flagship's defense without any resistance. However, the sky arrow could not move forward any further, because the Pope Kundan took out another artifact, a chain hammer. The chain hammer stretched out instantly, and the iron ball guided the iron chain and entangled the sky arrow. With one attack and one defense, the Pope Kundan established an advantage as soon as they met. The chain hammer crushed the sky arrow and returned to the hands of the Pope Kundan. The Pope swung the chain hammer, and the iron ball burst out with a powerful impact force and hit the immortal King Hercules. The iron ball with spikes hit the golden breastplate, and to the surprise of the Pope Kundan, the golden breastplate was still not damaged. The Pope frowned, worthy of being the arched immortal King Wizard. His attack was ineffective. It's a pity that the Kundan priest is not good at attacking power. These weapons can only burst out full lethality in the killing Pope. It's a pity that the killing church disappeared in history. The Pope thought it was good to be able to trap the furnace, at least the variable of the furnace would not affect the battlefield. Just as the trapped Pope was preparing to deal with the Constitutional Army airships, the throne behind him suddenly made a clacking sound of gears. The high back of the throne had bent iron plates sticking out, forming a shell shape, protecting the Pope inside. The figure of the furnace suddenly appeared 2 meters in front of him. I don't know when he got rid of the trapped iron chain. Maybe the furnace is not on Hercules. The furnace raised his finger and pointed at himself. The strong beam ignored the protection of the throne and appeared directly at the Pope's brow. The Pope's skin was burned, revealing the bones inside. The Pope's bones turned out to be black metal. The Pope's head made a clacking sound of gears. The metal plate on the surface of the skin opened where the finger fire shot, and the gear set inside kept rotating, quickly consuming the energy of the finger fire. The trapped Pope is not a human being. He has been transformed into a tool by the god of craftsmen. Transformed into a metal container that contains the power of the god of craftsmen. The fairy King Hercules was shattered behind Rudolph, and the iron chains crushed the starlight creation. The trapped Pope waved his scepter, and the trapped short stick flew back with the sound of gears. Also flying back was the sky full of iron chain nets. When the trapped Pope's eyebrows returned to their original state, he found that the furnace had disappeared. The ability of Lacerda is really troublesome. Each iron chain formed a ring connected end to end, and the rings rotated in different directions. Thousands of iron chains formed a rolling ball, wrapping the flagship. When the trapped Pope waved his hand, the iron chain expanded outward. The iron chain emitted terrible energy fluctuations. As the iron chain expanded, more space was wrapped in the iron chain. Rudolph, who was in absolute hiding, instinctively fled to the distance. His intuition told him that the inside of the iron chain was a place he must not enter. Once he entered, he would be captured by the artifact. Even without the temple, the terrifying divine power in this artifact could find his location. Rudolph reappeared on the flagship of the Constitutional Army. He said to Joel, "I will throw away all the giant air blast bombs and retreat. Fight while retreating." Joel suddenly grabbed Rudolph's arm. "Can't retreat. If you retreat, the Garon region will also be lost." Rudolph had such a hard time dealing with one pope, and there were 5 popes on the ground. The gathered evil god cult army is too strong. We are no match at all. They will disperse and hold sacrifices later. Only after the evil god cult disperses, we will have a chance to defeat them one by one. Joel failed to catch Rudolph again. Rudolph had disappeared. He had to give an order: retreat. Fight while retreating. The staff officers went to convey the order, and Joel stared at the battlefield. Soon, a terrifying explosion broke out near the Kundan flagship, and the 500-meter core explosion zone engulfed the flagship. The 1.6-kilometer effective killing zone included dozens of Kundan airships. In the blazing fireball, the giant air blast bomb hit a quarter of the Kundan church's ships. When the explosion ended, the Kundan flagship was not sunk. The Kundan flagship was seriously injured, the outer guard plate was blown off, and the complex mechanical gears, tracks, chains, etc. inside were exposed. Although it looked broken, it withstood the giant air blast bomb and could still operate. Joel closed his eyes in pain. That was a real 9th-level apostle, and that was the Kundan Pope with artifacts all over his body. What the furnace said was right. They were not the opponent of the evil god cult. Such an evil god cult should not be something that Zirba, a broken alchemist country, could fight against. The furnace did not stop, and Joel saw the giant air blast bombs one after another. Even on the ground, 3 giant air blast bombs exploded in succession. The furnace threw all the giant air blast bombs out in a short period of time. Retreat. Retreat with all your strength. Without the furnace, the Constitution Army's 3 giant air blast bombs might not hit one. Even with the help of the furnace, this tentative contact ended in the failure of the Constitution Army. The gap in strength is too great. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 766. Commander-in-Chief Joel looked back at the battlefield, and the figure of the immortal King Hercules appeared on the ground. The god of war, who was like an ancient god, was finally crushed in the joint attack of several popes. The terrifying artifacts, exploding starlight, and exploding giant air burst bombs caused black smoke to billow on the ground. The chief of staff asked from the side, "Even if you are a furnace consultant, will you be discovered when deploying giant air burst bombs?" Joel did not answer. In front of several level 9 pontiffs, it was so difficult for the furnace consultant to cope. Fortunately, half of the airships of the trapped church were shot down in the series of explosions. The remaining airships were unable to pursue them, and the Constitutional Army retreated relatively smoothly. It's not all bad news. The furnace held back the beleaguered Pope, allowing the main force of the Constitutional Army to freely drop bombs. As the Blood Vengeance organization grew stronger, Black TE's troops formed a separate Blood Vengeance Division. In Blood Vengeance Division, the soldiers' faces were full of regret, they hadn't fought enough. At an altitude of 10,000 meters, you cannot see the details of the ground without a telescope. They just fired shells without knowing the results of their battle. The Wind Wizards were the most excited. Their Wind Wizards could accelerate the cannonballs, making them less likely to be intercepted and more likely to hit the evil priests on the ground. For the Blood Vengeance organization, they can do more after becoming wizards. Rudolph's figure appeared on the airship. He stood by the railing and looked at the battlefield in the distance where the smoke gradually dispersed. When the others saw Rudolph coming back, they gathered around Rudolph. No one spoke, for the sight they saw was silencing. The smoke was blown away by the wind, and there were many cannon pits on the ground. There were many corpses of priests beside the cannon pits. However, there are more priests alive. The priests bypassed the artillery pit and continued marching north. What's even more frightening is that the situation behind the iron wall is deeply despairing. The battle has been going on for nearly an hour, and the iron pillars trapped in the iron wall are still rolling to both sides, and the gap in the trapped iron wall is still getting wider. There is no end to the line of priests, filling the increasingly larger gaps and appearing continuously. The number of priests is so large that one wonders whether the evil god cult has spent all its wealth. Almost all the priests were sent to the northern continent to fight for the parish for the evil god. These low-level priests may not be of much use on the battlefield, but they are very important in the work of preaching and establishing temples. The greater the number of priests, the faster the temple is built. It looked at Rudolph and asked carefully, "What should I do?" "Mr. Consultant. Wait until the evil god cult disperses, and see if there is a chance to defeat them one by one. We are no match for the evil god cult gathered together. 2 days later, the constitutional army retreated to the capital city of this province, and Rudolf also received a call from the other half of the Star Ninglong scales. When Rudolf appeared in the Luberon region, he found himself in the previous conference room again. All the officers looked at the furnace consultant with expectant eyes, hoping that the furnace consultant could bring them good news. Stein asked, "How is the battlefield situation in the Garon region?" Rudolf shook his head and said, "Not very good. Statistics after the war showed that 80% of the priests in the southern continent came to the northern continent. The constitutional army is no match for the evil god's cult's army. The high wall of the conquest is lost, and we can only watch helplessly as the evil god's cult's army disperses in all directions. Using giant airburst bombs to cause certain damage to the evil god cult was our only result. The constitutional army had to retreat and wait for the several churches of the heretic cult to disperse. The good news is that the evil cult is really dispersed, and they can't wait to build temples. The bad news is, they've run out of giant airburst bombs." Stein was a little unbelievable. 80% of the priests in the southern continent? So many. Yes, both the battlefield statistics and the intelligence from the Black Gold Institute confirm that there is no problem with this data. After Stein pondered for more than 10 seconds, he said, "I will deploy 4 giant airburst bombs from the Luberon region. I hope the consultant can take them to the Garon region." Judging from the confusion and shock on the faces of other officers, the Luberon region also desperately needs giant airburst bombs. Stein explained, "Werewolf only has one level 9 apostle, but there are several level 9 pontiffs in the Garon region. The situation there is even more critical." After hearing the commander-in-chief's explanation, other officers could not say anything more. After the meeting was over and only Rudolf and Stein were left, Rudolf asked, "Commander-in-chief, how are you preparing your level 9 alchemy weapons?" "Apart from level 9 alchemy weapons, I can't think of a way to break the situation." When Stein heard this, he couldn't help but look around, as if he was afraid that the next words would be leaked. "There was no one else around, just the two of us," Rudolf said. "Stein's behavior just now was just a subconscious action," he said. "The level 9 alchemy experiment was just interfered by the deceitful priest, and the core secret was almost leaked. Mr. Consultant, please persist for another 3 months. After 3 months, I will hand over the level 9 leveling weapon to you." 3 months. Rudolf was a little embarrassed. "In 3 months, I'm afraid that the Garon region will become the parish of the evil god. It wasn't originally that difficult, but I didn't expect that the director of the armaments department of the constitutional army turned out to be a cardinal fraudulent priest. If he hadn't been a little anxious at the end, his plan almost came true, and all our achievements would have been stolen by him." Pick. When Stein said these things, his face was still full of fear. The characteristic of alchemical weapons is that they can be mass-produced. If the news of level 9 alchemical weapons is exposed, everything will be over. I almost forgot that there are also fraudulent priests. Fraudulent priests are lurking in the northern continent. They have deeply infiltrated the northern continent and are not easy to deal with. Rudolf asked. "Is the ancestor of the werewolf Corvinus easy to deal with?" The answer to him was the fierce artillery fire outside the city. The front line has advanced to the suburbs of Luberon city. It seems that it is not easy to deal with. Rudolf stood up. "I hope your level 9 alchemical weapons can come quickly. I don't know how long I can hold on." As Stein sent the furnace away, he said, "Mr. Consultant, you have done enough and well enough. Sealba, the House of Lords, the Constitutional Army, and others have always been grateful for your kindness and justice." Rudolf didn't say much. After seeing Blanca, Rudolf disappeared in the starlight. Stein stood in the yard, listening to the sound of artillery fire outside the city, looking in the direction of the Garon region, and after a dozen seconds of silence, he turned and walked towards the laboratory. He did not go to command the army, but focused on the experiment. He and House split the level 9 alchemy experiment into several parts and worked together to speed up the progress of the experiment. What the furnace said was right. The only way to break the deadlock now is the level 9 alchemy experiment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 767. Jalan, the city at the mouth of the Garan River, has just experienced a great escape. On the dock were passenger ships fleeing to the upper reaches of the Garan River. People were dragging suitcases and running wildly on the dock. After hearing the captain say that this ship was full, they had to run to another ship. The train was too slow and was likely to be blocked by the evil god cult, so no one took the train. People were even willing to cross the Garan River and go north on the west bank of the Garan River, risking being eaten by werewolves. Werewolves are better than evil god priests. Werewolves are slightly weaker. After years of attacks, there are not many of them. Compared with werewolves, evil god priests are too strong. In the midst of the lively escape, more than 20 ships suddenly appeared on the sea. The Constitutional Army Navy had long been blocked in the inland river of the Garan River. The ships coming from the sea could only be ships of the evil god cult. The submerged flag slowly became clear in the thick sea fog, causing terrible chaos at the dock. Gilan is a big city on the Garan River, and the evil god cult will not let the city's large population escape. On the flagship of the Church of Oblivion, the 8th-level cardinal priest Canute stood at the bow, looking at the huge city and nodded with satisfaction. The Lord of Nothingness sent down an oracle that the Church of Nothingness will produce 2 popes, one in the south and one in the north, and 3 8th-level cardinal priests in the future. Whoever performs better in the next war of gods will become the new pope. Canute is full of confidence. He built the first temple in the northern continent for the Lord of Nothingness. As long as he successfully captures a few big cities, the position of the new pope will definitely be his. Gilan is located at the mouth of the Garan River. The Constitutional Army is far upstream and has no spare energy to take care of such a far city. Canute is the priest who has done the most in-depth research on the northern continent. The difficulty of the strategy of Gilan is extremely low. It is simply a peeled egg given to him for free. Bomb the dock. Sink all the ships. Half of the ships will go directly into the Garan River and attack the artillery positions along the coast of Garan. Canute's tactics were very radical, because he knew there was not much resistance here. Years of war have dragged down Sierba, and the city's war potential has been exhausted. The ships began to attack, and the port of Gilan quickly fell in the divine arts and artillery. One passenger ship after another was sunk, and people left the dock crying. Not long after, a priest came to the bow and reported. Respected Cardinal Priest. 9 airships flew over the Garan River, they are the airships of the Constitutional Army. Canute was a little surprised. At this time, can the Constitutional Army still spare 9 airships? He didn't take it seriously. What could 9 airships do? Until a thick octopus tentacle pierced his clothes. Canute was shocked. The artifact of the Lord of Nothingness, responded first. There was an octopus tentacle in his arms. This was not an ordinary tentacle, but the artifact of annihilation. The body of the evil god Annihilation was a spiral monster with 12 tentacles, which were connected by a ball of rotten meat in the middle. Canute's tentacles fell from the rotten meat, and they contained the power of the evil god Annihilation. The artifact tentacles automatically counterattacked, and Canute saw the appearance of the enemy. The extended fingers, the appearance of the wizard engraved in Canute's mind. The furnace. Rudolph frowned, and he could hide anywhere, but he had to show up when attacking. His chest was pierced by the tentacles, and at the same time, the suction cups on the tentacles quickly grew new tentacles, which traveled through Rudolph's internal organs, instantly expanding Rudolph's chest and abdomen. Rudolph was as pregnant as if she was 8 months pregnant, with a big belly. Before committing suicide, the world of pulverization and the shooting finger fire pierced Newt's head. With the tentacles rolling in his stomach, Rudolph quickly committed suicide to prevent the Oblivion artifact from affecting him further. Flames burst out from his body, burning Rudolph to death along with the tentacles. When Rudolph appeared again, he frowned and looked at Canute. Canute was not dead. After his head was shot through, the whole head split into 12 petals, each of which became a tentacle after squirming, making his head look like a flower. The tentacles swayed in the air, and there was nothing in Newt's head, only mucus. Rudolph suddenly lowered his head and saw that his abdomen was pierced and a tentacle pierced out of his abdomen. Strangely, Rudolph could not feel any pain. His abdomen swelled again, making Rudolph's scalp numb. The Oblivion artifact was indeed difficult to deal with. This artifact was a living thing, and rebirth from the fire could not eliminate the parasitism of the tentacles. The star power behind him was surging, and more than a dozen chains shot into the air. In the blink of an eye, a 100-meter-high statue of Hercules appeared on the sea surface of Jilun City. Hercules, the immortal king, was wearing a golden full-body armor, and his majestic figure blocked the Oblivion church's ships and the city. The fleeing people couldn't help but look back. Hercules, the immortal king, was shining with golden light, and he was better than the evil god statue. In Hercules, the golden flame of the ancient fire god burned inside and outside Rudolph's body. The power of the apostle beyond level 8 was surging in Rudolph's body, and the remaining tentacles in Rudolph's body were finally burned to death. The internal organs had already spasmed and displaced, and Rudolph had to be reborn again, and he was reborn in the flames of the ancient fire god and completely recovered. It was really troublesome. An 8th-level cardinal priest with a divine weapon made Rudolph resurrect twice as soon as they met. You can't ask for too much, Rudolph himself is just an 8th-level wizard. Hercules, the immortal king, held a golden giant sword and smashed it hard at the ship. Not only did Newt's head turn into tentacles, his arms and legs also turned into tentacles. These tentacles kept growing, getting thicker and longer, and eventually turned into a tumor composed of tentacles. Each tentacle was dozens of meters long, and Hercules appeared on the sea to fight the tentacle monster. The two tentacles wanted to block the golden giant sword of the god of fire, but the golden giant sword sprayed flames and easily cut the tentacles. The two sides fought fiercely, the waves rolled, and other ships were either sunk by broken tentacles or crushed by the warrior Hercules in the aftermath of the battle. As the tumor rolled, there was a gap between the two tentacles, and there was an eye in the gap. People who are very familiar with Canute can tell here that this eye belongs to Canute, and it is exactly the same as Newt's pupil. At a certain moment, the two tentacles split to both sides, revealing this eye. Rudolph's figure suddenly appeared. Rudolph was the man who was very familiar with Canute. Too familiar. They fought from the southern continent to the Sarago Sea, and from the Sarago Sea to the Eagle's Beak Peninsula, and now they were entangled at the mouth of the Garonne River. The moment he saw Rudolph, Newt's pupil suddenly shrank. However, it was too late. When the furnace appeared, the sneak attack was completed. A ray shot towards the eye, piercing the eye and the tissue behind the eye. The huge tentacle monster suddenly paused, and all the tentacles drooped softly. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 768. A thin beam of light shot through the tentacle tumor. Compared with the huge tumor monster, this beam of light was so slender. However, all the tentacles softened and no longer bared their teeth and claws. The tumor monster fell on the sea, and the tentacles twitched on the sea surface and began to peel off. On the ship of the Oblivion Church, the priests were stunned. They could not feel the power of the cardinal priest. They could not feel the power of the artifact. The Blood Revenge Division led by Hit flew up and began to bombard the ship. The strength of the Blood Revenge Division is very strong, because more than half of the Blood Revenge Divisions are apostles now, and the remaining half are about to become apostles. In a few months, the Blood Revenge Division will be the constitution maker of all apostles. With the blessing of witchcraft, the power of alchemical weapons is even stronger. One shell after another was fired at the ship of the Oblivion Church. The main battle weapon of the Blood Revenge Division was more than a dozen level 7 artillery. A shell from a level 7 artillery can sink a ship. Without the Cardinal Priest and the artifact, these more than 20 ships will not last long. Rudolph came to the collapsed tumor and saw the person exposed in the tumor. Canute, the priest who had been entangled with Rudolph for a long time, died because of his carelessness. Who would have thought that Rudolph did not stay with the main force of the Constitutional Army, but brought a small force to the estuary of the Garonne River. Leaving the giant air blast bomb to the Constitutional Army, the main force of the Constitutional Army was responsible for attracting firepower, and Rudolph was looking for an opportunity to sneak attack the Cardinal Priest, which was more efficient. A half-meter-long tentacle floated on the sea water, emitting the unique starlight of the relic. The power of the Apostle after Newt's death finally condensed on this artifact, turning the artifact into a relic. Rudolph made a special divination and found that there was no harm in occupying this artifact, so he picked up the relic. Level 8 obliteration tentacles disappeared in Rudolph's palm. In the star map, a meteor streaked across the sky and flew to Capricorn. The Capricorn Eta star was lit up, and the progress of Capricorn reached 5/9. There are only 4 stars left, and only 4 relics are needed for Rudolph to light up all 12 constellations. The next constellation of Capricorn is Scorpio, which is the first constellation that Rudolph lit up. After all 12 zodiac constellations are lit up, all the bright stars will form a circle. I wonder if there will be new changes. 3 suspended stars fell from the Capricorn Eta star, which is the reward Rudolph received. Level 8 Tentacle Whiskers, Level 8 Black Hole Vortex, Level 8 Arched Ursa Major Secret. This time it is easier to choose, and Rudolph already has Arched Ursa Major Secret. There are only 5 Arched Ursa Major constellations, and it is easy to get them all, so this option is excluded. Level 8 Tentacle Whiskers, this is a witch weapon. Rudolph's immortal King Hercules was covered with ancient artifacts and did not need a single magic weapon. Therefore, he chose the second option, the 8th level Black Hole Vortex. The attack power of the Annihilation Priest was not very strong, but the defense was very good. The Black Hole Vortex, a divine art, could easily swallow most attacks, which was a good supplement to Rudolph's power system. After dealing with the relics, Rudolph watched the Blood Vengeance Master bomb the ships of the Annihilation Church. The ships were still resisting, and occasionally a 7th level Annihilation Priest wanted to use divine arts to fight back, and Rudolph would use a sky arrow to help. Half an hour later, the battle on the sea ended, and all the ships of the Annihilation Church were sunk. Rudolph came to the shore, and soon, it brought the speaker of Gillen City. The speaker looked panicked and looked at the sea with fear. Just now, Gillen City was almost captured by the evil god Navy. Rudolph said to the speaker, "Organize the people in Gillen to cross the Garonne River first and flee northward from the west bank of the Garonne River." The speaker could not help but ask, "Mr. Consultant, what should we do with the werewolves on the west bank of the Garonne River? Ordinary people cannot deal with werewolves." It explained, "It's okay. The werewolves on the west bank of the Garonne River are all under the control of Mr. Consultant. Mr. Consultant's woman, the level 8 white wolf, has become the wolf king on the west bank of the Garonne River." Hearing this news, the speaker was relieved. "Okay, I will organize people to cross the river first and flee northward from the north bank of the river." Gillen City is a big city on the Garonne River, with a population of 100,000. Many well-informed people escaped in the early days, and there are still 60,000 people now. These people must not fall into the hands of the evil god cult. Half a day later, a floating bridge appeared on the Garonne River. The floating bridge was supported by several boats to prevent it from being washed away by the turbulent river. The refugees walked onto the floating bridge and staggered to the other side. I heard from the parliament that the west bank of the river is safe. Starting from the city of Gillen, Rudolph and the Blood Vengeance Division headed north, organizing the evacuation of people from one city after another. There has always been a navy of the Constitutional Army on the Garonne River, and the evil god cult deliberately avoided this place and dealt with those cities located inland that were easier to deal with first. The evacuation of the first 3 cities was smooth, but the situation changed from the 4th city. A group of priests from the Church of the Insect Nest appeared on the outskirts of the city, and the priest leading the group was a level 7 Insect Nest priest. Although it was easy to deal with this group of priests and thwart their plan to build a temple, this was a bad sign, which proved that the evil god cult's actions were very smooth and had expanded from inland cities to the banks of the Garonne River. A speedboat rushed down from the Garonne River, with a messenger from the Constitutional Army on it. Mr. Advisor. Commander-in-Chief Joel, please go back. Rudolph had a bad premonition. What happened? The main airship unit has run out of giant air blast bombs and has to retreat to the rear. Commander-in-Chief Joel believes that they can only rely on Garonne City for defense, and Garonne City still has 2 giant air blast bombs. I didn't expect that in just 1 month, the situation would become so bad. The split strike became a beautiful bubble, and the evil god cult did not act as expected by the Constitutional Army. Okay, I know, I'll go to Garonne City now. At this moment, Rudolph suddenly felt the call of the star condensation dragon scale. It was not yet time for the collective awakening ceremony, and I didn't know why Blanca called me. Alas, I am destined to be a hard worker. Rudolph turned to Hit and said, Captain Hit, find Yvonne and tell her to go to Garonne City first, and I will be there soon. Yvonne took half a piece of star condensation dragon scale, and Yvonne's arrival in Garonne City was equivalent to Rudolph's arrival. Then, Rudolph's figure turned into starlight and disappeared. When Rudolph appeared again, he was found in a basement. I don't know how deep it is here, and breathing is not very smooth. Blanca said excitedly, Teacher. After shouting, Blanca did not speak again, but pointed to a huge lead door. A staff member came over and brought them heavy protective clothing. Seeing the anti-radiation logo on the protective clothing, Rudolph was a little excited. Is it coming? Is it that kind of weapon? Is it going to the sky? Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 769. The heavy lead door opened, and several people walked out of it. Through the glass mask on the protective suit, the person in the lead was Duan, the head of the Judgment Department. Duan's dull voice came out, Furnace Consultant, it's done, the level 9 alchemical weapon is done. Good, good, it's finally done. Rudolph was very happy. The evil god cult was rampant in the Garonne region, taking whatever it wanted, and the alchemist finally made a weapon that could punish the evil god cult. Lead door, radiation, all signs show that the weapons made by the alchemist are similar to the weapons Rudolph had heard of in his previous life, and even because of the addition of the level 9 alchemical power, this weapon will be more powerful. Duan took Rudolph and Blanca into the laboratory. In front of a laboratory, Rudolph saw the experimenter who was shutting down the equipment, and also saw Stein who was taking off the protective suit. Commander-in-Chief, can you take off the protective suit? Yes, the radiation shielding array has been drawn. With the help of the staff, Rudolph took off the protective suit again. After not seeing each other for a month, Stein's hair had all fallen out. His face was pale, with inexplicable bruises on it. He coughed from time to time and coughed up blood. Rudolph looked at Stein's appearance and sighed. This commander-in-chief not only had to command the constitutional army to fight against the wolf tide, but also had to develop a level 9 alchemical weapon in this basement. He was like a candle that was about to burn out, with only the last bit of energy left. A door slowly moved, revealing the alchemical weapon inside. Two giant bombs appeared in front of Rudolph. Both bombs were more than 3 meters long and were painted with triangular radiation signs. Furnace consultant, the level 9 alchemical weapon is completed. These two bombs have promoted me to a level 9 alchemist, the pinnacle of Sealba's alchemical technology. Rudolph stared at the two bombs and asked briefly, enriched uranium? Stein and Duan turned their heads instantly. They couldn't believe their ears. Sealba's top secret, the raw materials of the level 9 alchemical weapon, such critical information, was actually known by the furnace. Duan was full of admiration. It was indeed a furnace. Their perfect plan was easily leaked. Countless alchemical investigations and confidentiality arrays failed to prevent the leakage of information. They thought everything was perfect. A technician handed over a piece of paper. Rudolph took it and took a simple look. He nodded frequently. The explosion parameters of this small-yield bomb were similar to the atomic bomb he had heard of in his previous life. If the alchemist was allowed to develop like this, he could really replicate many of his previous research results. Level 9 alchemical nuclear bomb, is this the name you gave to this weapon? After handing back the parameter sheet, Rudolph looked at the two big bombs and said with a smile. Your names are not creative, why not give them nicknames? The one on the left is so round, why not call it Fatty? The one on the right is chubby, why not call it Little Boy? Duan scratched his head. He had lost a lot of hair. Radiation caused strange diseases in his body, and even the level 7 plague medium could not cure him. Furnace consultant, these two level 9 alchemical bombs are standard weapons, and they look the same. Listen to me, calling these two names will increase the power by at least 20%. Furnace's brain circuit is different from that of ordinary people, otherwise he would not grow so fast. Stein smiled and said, Mr. Furnace, just do as you say. The one on the left is called Fatty, and the one on the right is called Little Boy. He liked these two names very much. He looked at his hard work with loving eyes. These two nuclear bombs are really his children, the children he fought for everything. Mr. Furnace, please take the little boy away. Please take the little boy to the Garan region. As soon as he finished speaking, Stein coughed up blood. A large mouthful of blood sprayed on the ground, staining the white ground red. Okay, Commander-in-Chief Stein, I will take the little boy away. The little boy has grown up. He will become a man and will have a very perfect appearance. Please wait for my good news. The starlight chameleon appeared and swallowed the 3-meter-long little boy in one bite. In the eyes of others, a precious level 9 alchemical bomb disappeared from everyone's sight. Then I will leave first. With a level 9 alchemical nuclear bomb, no matter how many level 9 popes there are, it will be useless. The Garan region will not be lost, and the little boy will definitely defend the Garan region. Starlight appeared on the star-condensed dragon scales, and Rudolph's figure disappeared in the starlight. Blanca trembled with excitement. She actually saw a level 9 alchemical weapon, and Sealba handed a precious level 9 alchemical weapon to the teacher. After Blanca left, Stein asked, Duan, what's the movement of the Royal Midnight Knights of the Megwen Empire? Duan said quickly. The Midnight Knights have been stationed on the border for more than 2 months. They have no intention of going south to deal with the evil god cult or werewolves. If the Midnight Knights can go south, at least the wolf tide in the Luberon region will not be so serious. Stein shook his head. It's useless to say these now, don't have any more illusions. The goal of the Megwen Empire is not the evil god cult or the werewolves. They are waiting for the emergence of the power of destruction. Unfortunately, until now we don't know what the power of destruction is. We can only save ourselves, only we can save ourselves, and only we can save Zielba. Dwayne couldn't help but ask, are the Furnace consultants also untrustworthy? Furnace. Furnace is such a fun guy and he's trustworthy. In the entire northern continent, only the Furnace has the ability and willingness to save us at this time. We should be lucky that Forge was promoted to level 8 wizard at such a young age and still has human emotions in him. Whether it is the evil god who has lived for thousands of years, Ptolemy who is immortal, or Emperor Mogwen who is about to become immortal, they are not human beings. There is no human emotion in them, in werewolf terms, no humanity in them, so they will not care about the death of ordinary West Albans. The Furnace is trustworthy, so I gave him a level 9 alchemical nuclear bomb. Oh no, now it's called Little Boy. Haha, the Furnace has to give this level 9 alchemy bullet an inexplicable name at this time, proving that he still maintains his interesting humanity even after his level increases. We all say that the biggest difference between werewolves is the amount of humanity and animality, but isn't it the same with other people? The evil god, Emperor Mogwen, Ptolemy, and the dead Carloman 16 are just beasts bathed in divine light, beasts wearing crowns, beasts longing for eternal life. They are no longer human, there is no humanity left in them. Speaking of excitement, Stein coughed up a mouthful of blood again. Dwayne, I can also make a level 9 alchemy bullet. Send Fatty to Legile City and ask Fatty to protect Legile City. Then you come back as soon as possible. When I make the third level 9 alchemy bullet, you hand the third level 9 alchemy bullet to the Furnace. Only the Furnace can exert the maximum effect of level 9 alchemical weapons. Just wait, the Furnace will teach the evil god cult a lesson that they will remember for a long time. The northern continent is not something that the evil god cult can just come to. Alchemists have many problems, but alchemists are the future of the northern continent. Dwayne watched Stein walk deeper into the laboratory. This time, the commander-in-chief was not wearing protective clothing. It no longer makes any difference whether he wears it or not. The bad side effects of the level 9 alchemy experiment left Commander Stein with only 1 month left to live. Stein's originally burly figure was stooped, making him much shorter. He walked towards death calmly, pinning the hope of others' survival on level 9 alchemical nuclear bombs. In Dwayne's opinion, Stein at this time was the most magnificent person in West Elba. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 770. The Blood Vengeance Division went north along the Garonne River, looking for the main force of the Constitutional Army. On a river beach, the airship landed, and Hit anxiously jumped off the airship. There were more than 20 airship wreckages on the river beach. The airbags were blown up, and the airships were full of holes. Some holes were caused by shells, and some holes were caused by divine arts. There were even 2 airships whose front halves disappeared, leaving only a smooth cross-section, which was a cross-section that could only be created by the black hole vortex that annihilated the priest. Hit searched in the wreckage of the airship, hoping to meet a few survivors. Soon, 2 soldiers carried a soldier out of the cabin of the airship, and there were really survivors. The survivor saw Hit's rank and hurriedly said, "Major General. We lost the battle here, and the scattered churches of the evil god cult gathered again and are heading towards Garonne City." Hit's breathing stagnated when he heard this, and the worst situation occurred. It turns out that the countermeasure of the Constitutional Army was to defeat the evil cult one by one while they were building temples. However, the evil cult just followed a straight line, used temples to lay faith, and quickly penetrated into the interior of the Garonne region. Their goal is to occupy Garonne City. As long as they occupy Garonne City, the capital of the region with the most resources and the largest population, then the other provinces of the region will be meat on the chopping board. Quick! Let's rush back to Garonne City. The Blood Revenge Division went north from the west bank of the Garonne River. The west bank of the Garonne River destroyed by the Wolf Tide was safer. The Blood Revenge Division flew at full speed and spent 2 days to finally find the main force of the Constitutional Army. Originally, the Constitutional Army had more than 300 airships. When they met again, it found that there were only 160 airships left, plus their 20, there were only 180. When it saw Commander-in-Chief Joel, Commander-in-Chief Joel was staring at the map in silence. On the map, they were only 140 kilometers away from Garonne. If they failed again, Garonne would be completely exposed to the evil god cult. Hat wanted to report the battle situation of their Blood Vengeance Division, but saw a messenger rushing in. Commander-in-Chief. The evil god cult's army is coming again. The officers in the cabin hurried to the deck and saw the airship of the trapped church in the distance, and the dusty evil god cult priest army on the ground. Joel turned to Hat and asked, "Captain Hat, has the furnace consultant not returned yet?" Hat quickly replied, "Commander-in-Chief, with the help of the furnace consultant, we have completed the evacuation of refugees from the 3 major cities in the south, and even the city of Jalan at the mouth of the Garonne River has completed the escape." The furnace consultant said that there is a situation in the Luberon region, and he will go to the Luberon region first. Joel nodded, feeling a little regretful. If the furnace consultant had not made that level 8 magical weapon, then the furnace consultant would not be able to travel between the 2 places and could concentrate on dealing with the evil god cult. I hope the war in the Luberon region will not be too tense, leaving more energy for the furnace consultant. He also needs the furnace consultant here. At this moment, Joel suddenly heard a wolf howl. The white wolf suddenly jumped into the air and landed on the flagship airship. "Commander Joel, Rudolph asked you to run away." The white wolf did not end the transformation and did not return to human form, so her voice was very dull. "Run? Miss Yvonne, if we run away, the evil god cult will approach Garonne City." The white wolf shook his head and emphasized again, "Run. Run." After that, the white wolf jumped off the flagship and ran to the back. The scavengers left with her. The scavengers' airship left the fleet first and flew to the back. Joel looked at the figure of White Wolf in surprise. White Wolf was holding half of the 8th level magic weapon of the Forge Consultant. Every time the Forge Consultant came back from the Luberon region, he would appear beside White Wolf. "Let's go. Let's go too." The flagship issued an order that the Constitutional Army should retreat in full and not stay. Just after the order was issued, a few minutes later, a division commander hurried to the flagship airship. "Commander-in-Chief. Why retreat? My division still has a giant air blast bomb. There are still shells in our artillery. There are still bullets in our guns." Joel was very distressed. The division commander in front of him was from Garonne City. If he retreated here, the entire Garonne City would be exposed to the evil god cult. The chief of staff said, "Retreat, this is the order from the Furnace Advisor." Furnace Advisor, the division commander was very angry. "Even if it is the Furnace Advisor, you can't give the city of Garonne to the evil god." "Retreat." If L didn't want the division commander to say anything disrespectful to the Furnace Advisor, maybe the Furnace was listening next to him, he said. The Furnace Advisor understands the strength of the Constitution Army, and the Furnace Advisor also understands the strength of the evil god cult. He has the clearest understanding of the war situation. Since the Furnace Advisor told us to retreat, then retreat as soon as possible and don't stay. Seeing the Commander-in-Chief's firm attitude, the division commander didn't say much and turned around and left. He returned to his airship and saw a pair of eyes full of expectations. His division is quite special. It was formerly the garrison troops of Garonne City, and most of the soldiers came from Garonne City. But how can he explain it? He had no choice but to lie to his soldiers. The headquarters has other plans. We are the Constitutional Army and must obey the headquarters' orders. A regiment commander said anxiously, "Where else can we retreat to?" Division commander, "If we retreat any further, we will enter Garan city." Garan city now feels the despair that other cities have felt before. In front of the evil god cult, the constitutional army can only retreat again and again, and no one can protect their hometown. The soldiers wanted to say something, and the division commander emphasized again. The order to retreat was jointly decided by the commander-in-chief and the Crucible advisor. Don't question the commander-in-chief Admiral Joel and the Crucible advisor. We once defeated the Knights of East Elba, and we can defeat the evil god cult in the future. Return to your posts and retreat. One airship after another turned around and retreated to the distance. The soldiers' faces were anxious and terrified. Once the city of Garan fell, there would not be much resistance left in the entire Garan region. The retreat lasted from morning to afternoon until there was no trace of the evil god cult in sight, and even the highest powered telescope could not see it. Until a certain distance, the White Wolf turned around first and stopped retreating. Joel hurriedly issued an order for the troops to set up defenses here. The White Wolf crouched on the top of a mountain, looking south. In the place that could not be seen, there was the terrifying army of the evil god cult. All the airships were facing south, and all the soldiers and officers were facing south. It seemed like an ordinary afternoon, and no one knew what they were looking at or waiting for. White Wolf looked at the south, and everyone looked at the south. Until Joel saw a mushroom cloud. The staff officer reported the parameters frantically. 35 kilometers away. The height of the mushroom cloud is 18,000 meters. The explosion power is equivalent to 15,000 tons of alchemical ladder aluminum explosives. According to estimates, the explosion temperature exceeds 6,000 degrees Celsius. The specific explosion effect could not be observed from too far away, but the 18,000-meter, slowly rising mushroom cloud shocked the alchemists. The mushroom cloud of the 8th-level giant air blast bomb was only a few thousand meters high, at most 3,000 meters, and it was unknown what caused the explosion in the distance. When Joel came to the White Wolf, Yvonne had already turned into a human form. She said, "Commander-in-Chief Joel and Commander-in-Chief Stein have completed the Level 9 alchemical experiment. The Level 9 alchemical nuclear bomb Little Boy has exploded in the army of the evil god cult." Rudolph said that he would wait for the 6 popes to gather together to detonate Little Boy. "Please announce the good news. Rudolph will not miss such a precious Level 9 alchemical weapon." Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 771. High temperature, air waves, blazing heat, residual smoke. The first appearance of the 9th-level alchemical nuclear bomb, several popes were completely unaware of what they were facing. Rudolph stood at the place where several popes had gathered, and sighed. "Oh, I don't even know your names, poor popes. Maybe you are big figures in the southern continent, but when you come to the northern continent, you are just unknown people who died tragically." In a deep pit with a radius of 14 square kilometers, Rudolph saw the slowly condensing relics. Surrounded by terrifying radiation, Rudolph did not dare to leave absolute concealment. He prepared for a long time, lurking in the sky, and finally waited until the 6 popes gathered together to discuss matters. When Rudolph landed at about 8,000 meters, the 6 popes found Rudolph at the same time with the help of the artifact. However, as long as they did not scatter in the first time, Rudolph would have won. The evil god cult army composed of 100,000 priests and believers did not survive. In front of the alchemical nuclear bomb, all beings are equal. Even the Pope and the cardinal priests were the same. The Level 9 alchemical nuclear bomb not only had the power of the atomic bomb in the previous life, but also contained the burning alchemical power. The popes struggled. For example, the painful pope had rotten flesh recondensed, but unfortunately they had never seen nuclear radiation and did not know how to deal with it. The alchemical nuclear bomb directly killed these popes. Everyone was vaporized in the first or second moment of the explosion, and no one survived. The Pope's relics were various scepters, including the white magic scepter inlaid with light beads, the distress scepter with clacking gears, the annihilation scepter with a vortex on the top, the pain scepter made of bones and rotten flesh, the insect nest scepter curved like an insect horn, and the abstinence scepter like an icicle. These relics made Rudolf excited. The only thing that made Rudolf feel sorry was that there was no fraud scepter, and there was no fraud pope here. A hand appeared in the air, and Rudolf picked up the white magic scepter. Rudolf felt very strange. The star map did not absorb the white magic staff into the star map space. Is the upper limit of the star map to collect relics is level 8 relics? The white magic staff fell to the ground. In order to avoid radiation, Rudolf's hand entered absolute concealment again. It seems that the level 9 apostle will undergo a qualitative change, and even the relics are so different. The title of the level 10 apostle is immortality, and the title of the level 9 apostle is unique, mastering the special uniqueness. Rudolf is not in a hurry. In this piece of ashes, no one can disturb him to collect relics. There are also many level 8 cardinal priests, and these cardinal priests' relics are all his. The level 8 Oblivion pillar lit up the Capricorn Mu star, and the progress of Capricorn has reached 6/9. Rudolf was not in the mood to see the rewards he received. He was eager to know what changes would happen to the star map after lighting up the 12 zodiac constellations. The level 8 Mother Nest Honey Pulp lit up the Capricorn Theta star, and the progress of Capricorn has reached 7/9. The 8th level Holy Light Orb lit up the Capricorn Lotus star, and the progress of Capricorn came to 8/9. The 8th level Painful Rotten Flesh lit up the Capricorn Kappa star, and the progress of Capricorn came to 9/9. Capricorn Kappa star, the last star of Capricorn, was lit up by the relic in Rudolf's expectant eyes. Capricorn, a monster with a sheep's head and a fish's body, the representative which language is grafting. Rudolf immediately understood the forbidden technique brought by Capricorn. Parasitic life. Just like the sheep of Capricorn parasitizing on the fish, or the fish parasitizing on the sheep. This forbidden technique allows the caster to parasitize on the apostle of the same level, using the apostle's ability until the apostle is completely replaced and his life is replaced. Rudolf suddenly felt that this ability was very similar to the ability of the fraudulent priest, and it was more flexible. Because the parasitic life can be parasitized many times, he can replace many people. The forbidden technique is not everything, not what Rudolf is most looking forward to. He quickly looked at Scorpio. Capricorn Kappa, the last star of Capricorn, is also the last star of the 12 zodiac constellations on the star map. Rudolf's eyes fell on Scorpio, Scorpio Lambda. That was the first zodiac star he lit up, and it was lit up with the crystal of the wizard Saren. That was the beginning of his journey through time and the beginning of all stories. Rudolf did not disappoint his expectations. After lighting up Capricorn Kappa, all the zodiac stars began to shine. Starting from Scorpio, then Pisces, Cancer, Leo. Those constellations that Rudolf had lit up, one by one, lit up. The 12 zodiac constellations formed a ring in the starry sky like a brilliant Milky Way, surrounding the starry sky. Finally, the last Capricorn also began to shine. The 12 zodiac constellations, representing the fundamental abilities of wizards, slowly rotated in the starry sky, driving other stars to start rotating as well. The 42 constellations in the southern sky, the 10 constellations in the central sky, the 19 constellations in the northern sky, and the 5 constellations in the arching stars. These constellations are moving faster and faster in the starry sky until they become after images. Each star rotates along the North Pole at such a fast speed that it forms a circle. The stars form circular tracks in the sky. Bright stars are the source of brightness, and dim stars are dim circles. Each circle has a difference in brightness and darkness as the stars rotate, which makes Rudolph feel a little dizzy. He suddenly felt that these circles were like the top and bottom of a parchment roll. Just when this thought came to his mind, the star map suddenly disappeared. There was no more brilliant star map in his mind, only darkness. The star map disappeared. His golden finger disappeared. This made Rudolph panic. He was a time traveler with a cheat. Now that he was not allowed to cheat, he might as well delete his account and stop playing. Fortunately, he found a light spot in the endless darkness. It was a roll of parchment. The bottom and top of the parchment, like the stars that just rotated, circle after circle. Rudolph's figure appeared next to the parchment, and he reached out and held the parchment. Bang! Rudolph's head was hit hard, and countless knowledge poured into his head. His eyes were instantly full of bloodshot, and he felt that his head was about to burst. The human brain capacity is limited, and it is impossible to remember too much knowledge. Among the countless fragments of knowledge, he finally knew what the scroll in front of him was. The omniscient scroll. The legendary omniscient authority. No, to be precise, it is half of the omniscient authority. Rudolph's mind moved slightly, and the knowledge about the omniscience scroll quickly emerged in his mind. In the Constitutional War more than 200 years ago, the great alchemist Robert led the parliament to defeat the knights. The Constitutional War was not a simple power war. The essence of that war was that the ninth-level alchemist Robert planned for immortality and omniscience. Eternal life and omniscience, the Lord of Jupiter. This is the immortality that should belong to the alchemist. However, Robert's plan was destroyed by the ninth-level Scorpio wizard Mercury, who finally robbed the omniscience. Just when Robert and Mercury were fighting, the evil god Fraud actually descended on the northern continent in person and joined the ranks of the robbery. The evil god Fraud has no temple, which means that he is not bound by the temple, and the true god descends directly. This battle is so intense, and this is not all, there are still people joining. The Lord of Mars, the master of the power of war, Ptolemy, took action at the last moment. Robert, Mercury, Fraud, Ptolemy, these are the four most powerful people in the world more than 200 years ago. Whether it is luck, strength, or wisdom, they have reached the top of the world. These four people have the possibility of grabbing the omniscience. The moment the great alchemist saw Ptolemy, he knew that he had lost. Ptolemy, who holds the power of war, will never lose in a head-on battle. In order to prevent the alchemist from becoming a waste like the giant, Robert used the power of alchemy to shatter the omniscience at the last moment. The omniscience should belong to the alchemist. The power of alchemy has a greater impact on the power than the power of other apostles, and it really shattered the omniscience. The embodiment of the omniscience is the scroll of truth, also called the omniscience scroll. Robert died, the omniscience was broken, and Ptolemy suddenly lost interest. Ptolemy had no ability to make up for the broken power, and could only wait for the omniscience to slowly heal in the opportunity. Half of the broken scroll of omniscience was thrown into the void by Mercury, and the other half was stolen by Fraud. Ptolemy was not interested in the broken authority, and only left a sentence, "I will come back to get it when the omniscience authority is restored." The half of the scroll of omniscience that Rudolph got was the half that Mercury had stolen. Rudolph opened the scroll and saw that the edges of the upper part of the scroll were neat, but there was a jagged tear in the middle. A few lines appeared on the scroll. The spectator of the universe's emergence. The witness of all history. All the past must be known. All the secrets must be discovered. The omniscient omniscience. You are the end of all secrets.